Hey guys, this is Kyle Fawcett from Projection Hub, and today I'm going to show you how to create a business plan for a food truck. Now, what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to write an entire business plan word for word right here in front of you. But what I am going to do is show you the outline of a typical food truck business plan, as well as highlight 5 key points that will kind of make or break the success of it in regards to if you're seeking a small business loan or a startup loan that your lender is going to want to see before they provide you any sort of funding for that. So first, who is Projection Hub? We have helped more than 50,000 small businesses, including many food trucks, create financial projections for their business plans, for their business loan applications, even if they're raising investment. And who am I? My name is Kyle, as I already mentioned. And before I worked with Projection Hub, helping businesses specifically on financial projections, I worked for an SBA lender for nearly 7 years as a loan officer. And a lot of the businesses that I got the chance to work with were food trucks. So that consisted of a lot of time reviewing food truck business plans, packaging those, underwriting those, trying to get those approved for financing. So I have a lot of experience kind of reviewing this. Now, I don't own a food truck. I don't plan on owning a food truck. So I think it's important for you to know that. This perspective comes from a lending and kind of review standpoint. So I just want to give you some insight into that. If at any point you find this video helpful, please like the video. That's super helpful for us. And also feel free to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content around owning your business and growing your business. That's what we try to do here. So with that, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to show you a free food truck template. This will be in the description down the video. You can grab that. Seriously, no strings attached. Exactly what I show you here, because the business plan is only going to be as good as the words and the content you put in it. So my goal is to equip you with a good starting point, show you the structure of that, and then, like I mentioned, focus on 5 key points that you really need to make sure buttoned up before you try and get funding for your food truck. So let's go. All right, so here we're about to jump into the contents of the business plan. But first, let's answer the question, why are business plans important? Maybe that sounds obvious because your lender's asking for it, but if it's a well-known industry, kind of like a food truck, I mean, that's a little bit more novel than a restaurant itself, but food trucks have been around long enough now that they're not uncommon, and business plans for food trucks aren't uncommon. So the purpose of your business plan is not to educate the lender on what the food truck industry is or what you're trying to accomplish, that's a benefit for you. That's less work that your business plan needs to do. Now, if it was a more novel industry, then it would need to do that. It would need to educate that, but you don't need to do that. So, contrary to popular belief, your business plan does not need to be super long. It needs to be long enough and detailed enough to educate on your plan for success. That is what we're trying to accomplish here. Is your business plan is not only helpful for you to get your thoughts down and get a plan created, but your lender needs to see what is your plan to be successful and to pay back the loan. So that's what we're gonna do here. You don't need 40 pages to do that necessarily. I've read really good business plans that are 5 to 10 pages long because they hit the important details that are going to be helpful. So keep that in mind. Again, you can create a 40-page business plan if that's what you need to vet all of the ideas and feel prepared. But what you provide to your lender or potential lender doesn't need to be that full thing to demonstrate what you're doing. So here we go. We're going to kind of hop in here. You can see in the table of contents the structure of the business plan. And then I will, as we scroll through it, I'll pause and highlight those 5 key points that we had mentioned. So you're going to have your executive summary, business description, your market analysis, and which I think we're going to have our marketing plan in there. Yep. And an operations plan and your financial projections, which I'll pause there obviously because Projection Hub specializes in financial projections. So a little biased there, but very, very important when it comes to your business plan. So let's go ahead and jump in. So your executive summary, let's think about this section as kind of your cover letter on a resume. This is going to be basically the first thing that anyone reviewing your loan application or your business plan is going to see. So we really want to make sure we hit the high points here. This isn't where you drill into really great detail on exactly the items that are going to be on your menu, but we want to make sure we mention what type of food are we going to be serving. So some good things to include in your executive summary. What are your total startup costs going to be? So you can see here financial projections and funding requirements. This obviously isn't all of the financial projections that will be included in the business plan, but it does kind of hit a quick bullet point there that the lender knows what they're getting themselves into. So including that kind of detail is good. Anything you want to make sure they know right out of the gate, that goes here. Now, business description is a little bit of an elaboration of the executive summary. So here you're going to get a little bit more into detail on Who are the owners? What is their experience? We'll actually go ahead and just do key point number 1 here. And this, because this is a good place to include that information. And that's going to be, what is the relevant experience that you have or the team has to be successful in this industry? In my time when I was a loan officer, we would get a lot of people who spent a long career doing one thing, and then all of a sudden they wanted to start a business that had nothing to do with the experience that they had. And that's not to say they wouldn't be successful at it. That just raises some questions from underwriters, from loan committees, people that are trying to make a decision on if they feel like this is a safe investment for them. Is they want to know and trust that you actually know what you're doing. So if that's experience as a cook at a restaurant, that's experience managing a restaurant, owning a restaurant, and if not you, do you have a business partner or a key employee that you can really depend on that's gonna make that difference for you? So this is a good place to do that when you're describing your experience specifically. And then later on, when we get down in the operations plan, you can elaborate on your team, if you have any employees or anything like that. So just wanted to hit on that here quickly. Like if you have history in the food game or the food truck game specifically, definitely make sure to mention that here. You're going to outline a little bit more your menu here, competitive analysis. Do you know what other trucks are in the area? That would be important for you to include here. Okay, market analysis. And this will bring us to key point number 2. So, market analysis makes it sound really fancy. You don't necessarily have to hire a professional market research agency to do a bunch of research and all of that stuff in your business plan. Of course, you can if you'd like to. That might be more common for Starbucks to do that, or a large franchise that I really want to make sure that a location might perform. But a food truck's a little different. You can move around, you can go to different places, and that makes this a little tricky. But the reason this section is important and what we need to highlight here is that there is available space in the market that you're going to be operating in for your business. So maybe as an example, I live in Indianapolis, in Indiana. So here's a good example. I pulled up a search here of a list of all the food trucks in Indianapolis, so I can see the different types that are going to be here. So not only a market from is there 50 different pizza food trucks? You got to see the mix of that. And then also I can see down here in this list that there's 156 food trucks listed in just Indianapolis. Now, when I was doing a quick little bit of research from this, I did notice it's a little hard to find a source of truth when it comes to what all food trucks are out there and that are operating. That will be a little trickier for this type of industry, and this business plan is identifying that market. So you might have to rely some on your personal experience and where you're located, and do you ever see food trucks in the area you plan to operate? But if you can do any sort of research like this, that would be helpful to cite and include that in your business plan, because that does demonstrate to your lender that you're not just saying, if I build the truck, people will come to it. So any demonstration you can do of the market you're going to be involved with is really important in the business plan. In the same section, we'll do key point number 3, and that's going to be customer acquisition. So this doesn't just mean marketing and sales strategy where you say, we're going to have a website and we're going to have social media. That's just not enough. Not going to cut it. That is, like I just said, that's the mentality of we build it and people will come. And while that may be true, maybe you have the most amazing food and food truck that's ever existed and people are just swarming to come get your food. Your lender is not going to give you the money that you ask for just because of that. They want to see some specific numbers and some plans of how you're going to get customers and how many customers you need to get to make this successful. So customer acquisition, a good example of doing this in this industry would be take the initiative, contact business office parks, towns around where you're going to operate, festival managers, bar owners, whoever the person's going to be at a college campus, gas station owners, business owners, farmers market managers, the people that are the decision makers in the places where you would want to put your food truck, even though you don't have a food truck. If you can say, I've contacted this list of people and I spoke with this person and they've already provided approval that we would be able to bring our food truck, or we would be welcome to do that. And if you can say there's no one else going to this event, or we would be one of 3 at this event, that type of stuff is really going to make your business plan shine. You can demonstrate not only, we're just going to go out there because, there's not any other barbecue trucks in my area, but you can say, these are the specific number of businesses and places we've contacted that would love to have us if we had a food truck. And, they have this many people come through, and we could imagine that even if only 1% of the attendees would buy from our food truck. So you can see that thought process of that starts to make a big difference in your business plan, because now your lender knows they don't just think that their food truck's going to be successful automatically. But they're thinking about this in a very technical way. They're doing their homework. They're hustling to already kind of lay the groundwork for this business before even having a loan or a food truck. So that's key point number 3 is customer acquisition. Okay, let's move along. The operations plan once already, and I'll kind of revisit the first key point, which is the team and experience. So highlight that further here. You've got staffing and training. So if you have a key employee, talk about them here. That's going to be obviously important for the success of the business, and the lender wants to trust that you guys know what you're doing. So that's going to be a good place to do that operations plan. All right, now financial plan, financial projections. We're going to pause here for a second. Now, obviously, this is a little bit biased. This is what Projection Hub does and what we specialize in. We've helped hundreds of food trucks create financial projections, and you'll see all of these projections I already have in here. So like this is a breakdown of the use of funds, projections like in a summarized table here, some specific summary financial data for food trucks, sales data, key ratios, and then you're going to see down here full 5-year financial pro formas for balance sheet, income statement, and cash flow statement. Now, your lender, especially if you're a startup, is going to want to see probably at least 3 years of projections. So 5 years is a more conservative amount, but minimum 3 years. So all of these projections were created. Quick plug is we have a food truck specific financial projection template. Come in, you put basic information. These templates were built so that you can do it yourself. And that saves you a ton of money because templates are very affordable versus having to pay a CPA to do it for you. And our team is here to answer questions while you fill this out. It's very simple. You'll be able to account for seasonality. What makes this template special is it's not going to just say, okay, put in your estimated revenue, because you might say like, well, I don't know what my estimated revenue is. So this template is built to help you actually calculate what your projected revenue is going to be before you even have the financial statements. So you'll be able to include all of that, including your employees, your labor, what are your expenses going to be? If you have any salaried employees, that's maybe less likely for a startup food truck. You'll get this breakdown of all of these great charts, which you saw that I copied some in the business plan, and then all of your financial statements, which are generated automatically. And actually at the end of the video, I'll give you a discount code for that template if you're interested to make it even cheaper for you. But key point number 4. So not only do you need to have financial projections, but the key point specifically is your financial projections need to be realistic, align well with industry expectations. So how do you know that? Good old-fashioned Google. That's the easiest, cheapest way to do it. So we're looking for things like, does your revenue, your total revenue check out? We don't want it to be super high or super low than the industry average. Profit margins, are those realistic? Maybe your percentage of food costs, is that realistic? Debt service coverage ratio. Now that's a little bit of a tricky one, but that's something your lender is going to talk about. They're going to want a debt service coverage ratio of 1.2 or higher, which just means that you're projecting to have $1.20 in free cash flow for every $1 in debt payments, because they want to know that you're generating enough money that you're gonna be able to cover your business needs, but also, pay back your loan, and that's not going to be too tight. So, quick Google search, food trucks make an average of $250,000 to $500,000 annually. So when you make your projections, you'll be able to see like, okay, am I within that range? So right here, the way this projection is pre-filled out, we're a little high from that. First year maybe starts out good, but we probably would want to come in here, tweak some numbers, make sure it's a little bit more conservative. We've got typical profit margin, 3 to 8%. Let's go back to our projections. Let's see profit margin, a little too high again, 8%, 22%. Now, the further you get out, it's okay to be a little unrealistic if you're projecting that growth and can't predict the future necessarily. But it's clear that we probably want to cut that back a little bit, or else the lender might be like, well, you're being a little generous with those projections. So that's key point number 4. Make sure your financials are realistic and within industry expectation, industry norms. I guess I should mention we have a full walkthrough guide of how to fill out the template in here too, which is a really helpful starting point. But these will mostly round out the projections. A little bit of a conclusion down here. We're missing one key point, and that is a little something called skin in the game. So what's going to be really important to your lender is they are going to want to see some sort of demonstration of mutual risk, or what they would call skin in the game. So you can't expect to show up and get a loan to do your business without any sort of exchange to mitigate that risk. What do I mean by that? Same way when you go to build or buy a house. You get a mortgage, they expect a down payment. Very similar expectations when you're getting a business loan. If you want a $100,000 business loan, expect to be putting in $10,000 to $20,000 of the cost of your startup project. Okay, so maybe a better example is it's $100,000 startup costs. The bank may be interested in putting in 80, you got to cover the other 20%. So that's a very common thing to expect. Another way risk can be mitigated is with collateral. So I shouldn't say it's an if or an or, it's going to be an and. They're going to want to see that, cash injection from you as well as probably collateral. So the truck itself, that's an obvious one for this industry. Is if you're using part of the loan to buy the truck, then the bank will hold on to the title for that. So that's a good example. Second mortgages are an option, or titles on other cars. So just be prepared for that to be. It's very common for business owners. I heard this all the time as a loan officer. They would say, "Well, I was told to keep business and personal separate to protect myself." Great advice. Do that with your bank account. Do that with your bookkeeping, your accounting. But when it comes to mitigating the risk and collateral for actually getting a business loan, that's kind of got to go out the window. The lender is going to want to see, well, you're not just committed here in the business, you're committed personally to make this work. And so that's important to know. So, and one last example of skin in the game is I heard this all the time as a lender was people say, I'm going to quit my full-time day job today so I can do this business. Some industries that's required. Food truck might be an example, but maybe not. I'll give you an example of that. So maybe you work a full-time job that you would love to get out of to do the business full-time, but maybe that doesn't make sense right out of the gate. You say, I'm going to buy my food truck and I'm just going to, after work, I'm going to drive it around at night and I'm going to start getting orders. Now, that may not be a great game plan long-term because, you'll burn out and you can't do that realistically, but maybe having that income to supplement the startup of the business, that could be a good example of skin in the game. You're making a commitment to work and hustle really hard to make this thing work. So sometimes that's a little opposite of what people think their lender wants to hear from them. So, and there you have it. That's kind of the quick overview of the food truck business plan. Again, this template is free. You can grab that down in the description. If you have any questions about the financial projections, definitely reach out to us at support@projectionhub.com. As promised, here is a quick, you can use PH20BP when you get this. Got a link in here and a few different places that can get you 20% off of the template. And if you have any questions, definitely let us know and like the video if this was helpful for you. So appreciate your time and I wish you the best of luck in creating your business plan for your new food truck and hopefully getting it off the ground. Thanks.